Greetings. My name is Vogel Denise Newsom and I am a community activist. Just wanted to take the time to provide you with this video and to let you see for yourself information we are collecting in support of our drafting of the Declaration of Freedom, Independence, and Separation. Blacks, African Americans, people of color have a legal and lawful duty to have a government that works and is governed by them and not a despotism government controlled by Zionists and or the likes of the clans. Just as independence was sought from the despotism government of England or Great Britain on July 4th, 1776, the duty and right exists in defense of independence from the despotism government of the United States of America. For instance, below, we provide an excerpt taken of the list of judges from the Baker, Donaldson, Bierman, Caldwell, and Berkowitz, the law firm that's affiliated with the Klan, showing a listing of judges that it appears they own and or control, such as Judge Maury L. Sear and G. Thomas Portis. I list those two judges because they are the ones that were assigned the Newsom versus Entergy matter in New Orleans, Louisiana, where Baker, Donaldson, Bierman, Caldwell, and Berkowitz entered in appearance. Since the filing of that lawsuit, Judge G. Thomas Portis has been removed from the bench or impeached for taking bribes, kickbacks, blackmail, etc. to throw lawsuits on behalf of law firms as Baker, Donaldson, Bierman, Caldwell, and Berkowitz and their clients. We provide you with a video out of Pennsylvania so you can see even the extent how serious they are in using the judicial process to enslave blacks or African Americans of color, specifically targeting a major group, the youth.
There was a Pennsylvania judge that recently got 28 years in prison for selling kids to a private prison. They was giving him kickbacks for the sentences he was putting on these children. Let me go ahead and roll the clip.
Stunning story out of Pennsylvania where the Supreme Court there has just thrown out thousands and thousands of juvenile convictions issued by a judge who's been caught up in a corruption scandal. His name is Judge Mark Ciavarella, and he has now admitted to accepting millions of dollars in kickbacks in exchange for sending kids to private detention centers. The court says that none of these young offenders basically got a fair hearing. Some of them weren't even allowed to have lawyers during their hearings. So what happens to them and what happens to these cases? Marsha Levick is here. She's Deputy Director and Chief Counsel at the Juvenile Law Center. She represents the juveniles in these cases. What's been the reaction, Marsha?
Well, the reaction across the board is really stunning. I think that both the families, the kids, and the community is overwhelmed by what is really an unprecedented result in an unprecedented case.
In terms of what happens then to these cases, I assume that we're talking about 6,500 cases, just so our viewers know, or thereabouts. I assume that a fair number of these kids were actually guilty in these cases. What happens to them? Do they get retried?
The vast majority of these kids, first of all, won't get retried. I wouldn't assume that so many of these kids were guilty. More than half of these kids appeared without lawyers. These were hearings that took place in about a minute and a half. The judge made summary, arbitrary decisions about these kids, and they were denied the most fundamental rights of due process. So these kids are really getting the opportunity to get their lives back on track and to erase what happened to them.
You're right. I guess we can't make any assumptions in this case because, as the court has said, there really was no fair system and no justice. I know that you're suing for damages. Who and what are you suing?
Well, we're suing the judges, and we're also suing the private provider who ran these facilities that gave the kickbacks to the judges. We are suing the developer of these facilities, the Luzerne County itself, for their conduct in this. So we are hoping to get compensation for these kids and families who, as I said, not only suffered violations of their due process rights, but many of these kids and families paid fines and restitution, really paid money back to the juvenile court as a result of being found delinquent. So we're hoping for a victory there as well.
Real quickly, I understand, though, that the judge and another one involved in this case, though, they've asked for immunity.
The judges have asked for immunity, and we think that this is, again, just an extraordinary situation where you have judges really acting outside the bounds of the Constitution, and we are hopeful that the federal court will not grant them immunity in these cases.
Marsha Levitt, good of you to be here, Marsha. Thank you. And just so our viewers know, we did try contacting Judge Ciavarella through his attorney. We were told, though, because of the pending criminal ruling in this case, and he's also obviously got some civil legal issues as well, that they would not.
What many of you don't realize, the prison system in America is becoming more and more privatized. The corporations are making a lot of money off of prisoners. And the reason why they're making money off of prisoners is because they have them in there doing slave labor, only making 50 cents to, at the most, maybe 90 cents a day. They work these men, women, and children all day long. So they're getting a great profit off of people. So what they're doing, as in this particular case, this judge just got caught. But how many other judges are just passing out this time so they can put them in the private prisons and they getting all kind of financial kickbacks off of it? It explains a lot why a lot of people are getting this extended amount of time for hardly nothing. Because it's all a money racket, so the corporations can make money off of prisoners. You know, see, this corruption that's going on in the government level is sick. It's wrong. If a person do wrong, give them a fair trial with proper representation and follow the Constitution and law to the fullest. That's all people want. But no, people like this guy want to make kickbacks off of corporations. It's sick how the corporations are doing the people. Throwing people's kids in jail for long periods of time just so they can get slave labor off of them. Or men and women as well. It doesn't make a bit of sense. The corporations in America is the enemy. Not the black, white, Hispanic, and all this other stuff. The corporations use racism through politics to divide the people, but the corporation is the beast. That's the beast in this country. They control everything. They control the politicians. They control the police. They control it all. Always remember this. They bail them out, but they'll never bail you out. Why? Because they take care of them. But what y'all think about this particular story? Show you how sick society is, and thank you for the brother that sent it to me. Hit me up in the comments of future commentaries.
This is no laughing matter. Have you had enough? The Indians believed the lies, the forked tongue of the white man, and they wound up on reservations. Blacks, African Americans believed the lies, the forked tongue of the white man, and integration and desegregation. If they don't wake up, genocide, slavery, and the return to chains will be their reality. This is why they put what I call fronts, house Negroes, sellouts, into political office and positions for deceptive purposes. Because you have those blacks and African Americans that just think because a person has some skin tone that they're in there working on their behalf. But no, they're just put in there for deceptive purposes. People such as United States President Barack Obama. Let's go to the state of Mississippi, where an employee of Baker, Donaldson, Bierman, Caldwell, and Berkowitz, and a former governor of the state of Mississippi by the name of Raymond Mavis, put a house Negro in the Mississippi Department of Corrections by the name of Christopher Epps. Why? Because the state needed a warden who knew how to run a plantation. Well, Mr. Epps quickly rose up through the ranks and everything. Quickly. Why? Because it appears from the allegations and the criminal charges or indictments leveled against him, he took bribes, kickbacks, etc. from private investors while operating the Mississippi Department of Corrections. He was facing over 350 years in prison, but they give that white man in Pennsylvania 28 years, it seems. This is what they do to these house Negroes that think they just love them. He was facing at least, they're saying, over 350 years in prison. But now, as of June of 2015, it has been postponed. So he's still out on the streets, the last report we got. So let's go down to Claiborne County, where they have this house Negro now in office. serving as the conservative by the name of Dr. Earl Watkins, who also claims to be a minister in some interdenominational church, most likely white-controlled and run, serving over the Claiborne County Public School District. Down there, working plans from the reports that are given to have Port Gibson High shut down so that they can use that land, the private investors in different ones, and turn it into a private satellite prison. For who? Blacks, African Americans, targeting the youth through this criminal process called the school-to-prison pipeline. Enough is enough, and this is why it's important for the blacks, African Americans, and people of color to wake up and take control of this government that has been hijacked from them. There are those who are probably wondering, how is that Vogel Denise Newsom knows so much? Well, she has personal experience and personal knowledge of the practices of the Klan's law firm Baker, Donaldson, Bierman, Caldwell, and Berkowitz and its clients like Liberty Mutual Insurance Company against her. Because, for instance, on February 14, 2006, they had the audacity, or they were stupid enough, to have the Hinds County Constable, who was also serving as the chairman of the Mississippi Athletic Commission under former Haley Barber by the name of Jean Lewis, kidnap Vogel Denise Newsom and take her down to the Hinds County Detention Center in Raymond, Mississippi. The judge involved in those activities was none other than a judge by the name of William Lewis Skinner. For those who may not know, his father was shot and killed around 1972 when the FBI went in and raided the grassroots organization of Malcolm X by the name of the Republic of New Africa and appears framed them for that death of former police officer William Skinner. Rather than file an answer to the civil lawsuit that Vogel Denise Newsom filed arising out of these criminal activities, they had Jean Lewis go and file some false and fraudulent criminal charges against her, alleging resisting arrest, disorderly conduct, failure to comply with law enforcement. Need I tell you, the judge even knew those were frivolous charges and the statute of limitations had told, because rather than answer the complaint in 2007, Jean Lewis chose to file these charges against Vogel Denise Newsom, charges which were just dismissed. Duh.
Got a plan to give Americans a greater chance to gain the skills they need to compete. You know, education was a gateway of opportunity for me. Let's face it. You know, a mixed kid from Hawaii, born to a single mom, is not likely to become president of the United States.
The people are getting just what they pay for. Lying politicians, House Negro sellouts. They enjoy being entertained by such con artists as President Barack Obama, who thrives on his mixed race. Under his administration, for instance, in this 21st century, in 2010, there was a hanging in Mississippi. A man by the name of Frederick Jermaine Carter lost his life. Then in 2015, another one by the name of Otis Byrd lost his life. But yet and still you have these blacks, African Americans just licking up, thinking President Barack Obama means them well. Did they not know that the Klan's law firm of Baker, Donaldson, Bierman, Caldwell, and Berkowitz is legal counsel to United States President Barack Obama? They're legal counsel to the federal government agencies as well as the state agencies. That's executive, legislative, and judicial. Yes, they're even over the United States Department of Justice, so the FBI, CIA. I just pray and hope that these blacks and African American people will eventually wake up. Well, not eventually, they need to wake up most urgently, because this matter is serious.